This week's Breaking the Huddle brought to you by SCAD, Scott Countyans Against Drugs.
Welcome everybody to Breaking the Huddle, episode 1 of our new fall show to discuss sports. Actually, it will be a year-round show brought to you by the News Graphic. A little different format this year, as of course, new era. We have two high schools, Scott County and Great Crossing. And they will begin with none other than the first Battle of the Birds, the much anticipated, much talked about, much boasted about on social media football game between the Cardinals and the Warhawks. Been a lot of, I think, myths as we've gone through the spring and summer involving this game, from some things that have come up. Let's address a couple of those. The stadium will be ready. The Bird's Nest is ready for opening night on Friday, 7:30 kickoff. School officials advising you to arrive early. Lots of parking on site. There will also be shuttles from Western Elementary if you want to take advantage of those beginning at 6:30. So that's the main myth we got to deal with. The other is, like, who would be playing where, I think, was a lot of the discussion when this was announced first 3 years ago, and then when they broke ground about a year ago, and it really became in people's minds that it was finally going to happen and they had to accept it. Most of the seniors from that were senior are going to be seniors this year have gone to Scott County, have stayed with the Cardinals. They have 31 strong in that category. So on paper, certainly going into Friday night's game, SC will be favored to win that one. Let's take a look at what they have coming back for Coach Jim McKee. Of course, his son Cade McKee is the quarterback, second-year starter. Really came on strong, I thought, the second half and the final third of last season as Scott County hit his playoff stride. Really got comfortable with that quarterback position. Behind him, Bronson Brown, halfback, 1,300 yards and 20 touchdowns last season. He will be back. New face at fullback as Philip Garner steps in there. Of course, he missed a lot of last season with an injury, and it's a new position. So a little bit of a learning curve for him. And then you're talking about some big, talented sophomores. You've got Jeremy Hamilton, Montego Jones, just a lot of weapons in that backfield. 4 or 5 guys. Campton Martin is another, a junior. So the Cards are well equipped to run that wing T offense to perfection once again. You may be asking yourself, how are they going to replace Brian Hudson, who the 4-year starter who has moved on to Virginia Tech, while Austin Taylor, a Division I recruit in his own right, will be starting. He'll be kind of the linchpin of that line, as it were. They also had another 4-year starter, did the Cardinals, in Glenn Covington, the receiver, defensive back, kick return specialist, all those things. Not going to be able to replace all of those with one person, but keep an eye on Michael McClave as the receiver. He's going to step up as a senior. He can really go up and get the ball when the Cards, in fact, do look to pass, which may not be very often, especially on opening night. I mean, one thing Scott County likes to do early in the season is get the lead, run a bunch of long drives, or score on big plays, either or. And the key for Great Crossing, flipping over to the Warhawk side, is just to be able to contain that a little bit and just see where they stand at this point. Really, you hate to use the cliche, nothing to lose, but it really is that situation for Great Crossing. A lot of sophomores, even some freshmen they're going to see key time, not a ton of juniors and seniors. They've had 2 scrimmages to this point. Went to Bourbon County this past Friday night, lost 17-0 while the starters were in the game. Similar score at Madison Southern the week before that. I think the biggest key that people are going to want to watch for is, with Great Crossing, the passing attack, the spread offense. Great Crossing is going to want to put the ball in the air a lot more than Scott County ever does or ever has in the past 23 years with Jim McKee at the helm. Got Caleb Perry at quarterback. He's a sophomore. Young line operating in front of him. So the key for the Warhawks is to give him time to throw or even time to hand off. He's got some talented people around him. Bryce Hearn is a senior who played at Scott County last year. He can run and catch the ball. Another key for Great Crossing, players going 2 ways. Scott County still is going to try to shy away from that as long as they can, even with the smaller numbers that you get from having 2 schools. But Great Crossing probably going to be faced with having some guys, Perry for one, possibly Trey Combs, Trent Allen, some other guys worth mentioning. You may see on both sides of the ball, and in the heat of summer against a tough opponent, we'll see how Great Crossing handles that. But going forward, if you look at that first season after they get through the Scott County game, Great Crossing with certainly some competitive games potentially on the schedule. Woodford County, Grant County, Franklin County, Harrison County, ones you might want to circle as ones where GC can at least can hang with their opponent and see where they stand. But a lot of people wanted to play this game first and get the excitement of having 5,000 or 6,000 people in the stadium at once. A few people didn't. I'm not sure Paul Raines, the head coach, is really keen with that. It's a district game. You have to get special permission to play a district game this early in the year. And as Coach Raines says, you know, what happens 5, 6, 10 years from now when maybe both these programs are a little more equal? You want to play a district game first thing and have one that counts so much toward where you're going in the playoffs? Not really sure that's part of the plan. But for these 2 years, this game is going to be played at the Bird's Nest Stadium. Now, you may not know both schools. A lot of people have asked me. Both schools will be playing their home games there. This is technically a Scott County home game this Friday night, but going forward, both schools will pretty much alternate weeks. There's 1 week where Scott County will be playing a Thursday night game and Great Crossing a Friday night game, but for the most part, they're going to be packing up the same stadium right next door to Elkhorn Crossing and right next door to the new GCHS. We are going to talk about some other fall sports on this program as well. We're calling it Breaking the Huddle for that reason. I want to give a shout out to Great Crossing boys soccer. They started the season 2-0. Of course, they got most of the seniors from the that would have been seniors at Scott County had it stayed one school, and a lot of them stuck together to go to Great Crossing. They got 2 wins under their belt. A couple more games this week. One of those wins was over Scott County 6-1 in a game where they pulled away late. And Scott County and Great Crossing volleyball got it started on Tuesday night. Now you want to pay attention to Friday. If you want to get there early, park your vehicle around 5:30, head on over, walk on over the short distance to the high school where the 2 volleyball teams will be taking each other on in their first battle with the Birds. That should be done by 7 o'clock-ish, and then you can go claim your seat in the grandstands for football. Another option for you to look to the football game, there is an online ticketing option. If you go to the Facebook pages for both the schools' athletic departments, they've posted a link on there. I think they, last check, DT Wells told me they had sold about 700 tickets as of Tuesday morning. So that's a good option. Avoid the lines and save yourself some headaches on Friday night. We talked to, after last week's exhibitions, talked to the coaches from both teams. Let's see what all the Cardinals and Warhawks had to say about this memorable event.
Sure, we're going to scout Scott County, and I know a lot of what they do and everything, and we'll prepare accordingly the best we can for them. But for this program, for this team, it's more about what we're doing than it is what our opponent's doing. Because it doesn't matter if you're jumping off sides and getting motion penalties and you're not lining up with correct alignments and you're not even coming close to doing your assignment right, it doesn't really matter what the other team does. So we're still focused on Great Crossing and fundamentals and getting this thing built from the ground up.
I mean, I'm fired up about that. I can't wait. Our administration's done a great job planning the game out. I think it'll go off pretty smooth without many hitches. I think the stadium is beautiful. And I think ultimately, if you want to have 2 schools, what's the argument that everybody that wants to have 2 schools has?
Better for the kids, better experience.
More opportunity, right or wrong. Is that not what everybody harps on? Okay, so break it down. We maxed at 142 last year.
Hey, don't move, State.
We're at 104 right now. I'm not sure where they are. Somewhere like
68,
60 to 70, maybe 70. Let's give them a high spot at 70 and give us a high spot at 110. That's 180. So that's 38 more kids that are playing football. So that's a positive thing for kids in our community. Yeah, we're really fired up about it. I can't wait.